The African story has been told by the other. We have never got the opportunity to tell our own story as Africans, to write our own narrative. There's always a thinking that urbanization is the way forward. But you tend to realize that our generation, now we are saying going back to tradition is the first step towards progress.
Did you ever think that there's going to come a time where people would come from the city going back to the rural areas?
I have got this view, and I think everybody shares, most of the people in diaspora, they share the same common view that, you know, regardless of where you go, you're always going to be missing home.
The greatest custodians of our culture are people living in the rural areas. I visited Nyaguwe Safari Resort deep in the rural areas of Goromons, a place where people got to connect with their roots. Rural tourism has been on the rise recently, and that being said, Nyaguwe has been the talk of the town. I had the privilege to speak to the owner of the place. The man went on to speak about his experience in the diaspora.
You know, it's hard because I share the same frustration as most diasporians. Why? Because everybody's got ideas.
Yes.
And they want to implement ideas, but you need resources.
Exactly.
So people go out to harness resources so that they can implement ideas. So how do you marry the two? With you harnessing the resources and also being able to run projects on the ground. So there's a balance that is required between the two. You know, if you go and source out funds, then you come and make sure that you implement the ideas that you want. Because it's hard for you to be full-time locally because you need resources.
Exactly,
and
very true. Very true.
The global financial situation is everywhere. People are struggling. So you need capital. And you need to go harness capital, then you come and implement ideas.
So it's very easy to harness capital when you are in the diaspora compared to here.
There are many ways of going to heaven. I've seen success stories, people who have never went to diaspora, who have made it more than people who have went to diaspora. And then I've seen people who went to diaspora who have made it, you know, more than people that have been local. So there's no one formula to success. I believe that luck and success is everywhere. So there are many ways of going to heaven. So one can make it while they're locally, and one can make it when they're outside. But what is more important is to just have a goal and a vision.
How were you able to finance this kind of project?
You have to work. I think the ingredients to success is discipline. Discipline. Financial discipline and perseverance and determination, because it's not an easy task. We are a young generation. We crave so many, you know, new things, latest phones, latest laptops and everything. But I think in life you need to give yourself time to know this is time to sow and this is time to sow. It will come a time when you're going to reap.
Honestly, what you're saying is very important. Young people, we have a tendency of saying, I'm still young, let me enjoy my life. But here you are a leading example. Today is Friday and we have over 150 people here, if I'm not mistaken. As young as you are able to do such things. What does it take for one to reach a level like yours?
It's hard. It's hard because there's a lot of your age groups are enjoying.
Yes, very true.
And one's background is important. It defines your determination. We didn't grow up with everything.
Exactly.
So, you know, we are sowing what has been sowed by past generations.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a collective responsibility to sow what is going to be reaped by our kids and our grandkids. So it takes a bit of sacrifice. There's a certain generation that has to sacrifice their youthhood and their adulthood to a certain degree to say, you know what, as much as I want to all these things, I need to sacrifice. You know, sacrifice. Greatness of a family has to start from somewhere. Somebody has to take the lead. Somebody has to sacrifice to say, as much as I want the latest phone, I need to buy bricks and cement. Respect for the elders is where blessings come from. So that's why we've created this platform so that we can teach kids to say, you know what, it is very important for you to, the first gospel is respecting elders. So I think it is a collective duty for us, the older generation, to say, guys, this is what should be done. This is where your blessings come from. You know, we can never go anywhere if we don't have the blessings of these elders. They are the ones who guide us in everything.
I want to go back to the time that you were building this place. What are the challenges that you faced? Were you scammed? What were the problems that you faced?
Everything. It's hard when you have a vision.
Yes.
When you have a vision, the first thing that you want is to harness individuals, expertise that believe in your vision.
Yes.
So in able to, that's the biggest task in anything that you do, is to identify people that share the same common and same vision with you. It has been a mammoth task to identify such a caliber of individuals and expertise. Then you've got financial problems.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
I've got a family, I've got 4 kids. Balancing the two of telling the wife to say, I've got this vision. So we don't have money for Pampers in this house.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to cement. It's not easy because there's no big pocket where the money is coming from. You have to go and work, and the little that you have, you're sharing, making sure that the kids have everything. Because what you don't want is, you don't want to raise your kids to say, Daddy, you didn't give everything that we needed. So you want to balance to make sure that home is safe, they are happy, but at the same time, you're financing all the things that is required. So it was never an easy task, and it's not done, and it's not an easy task again, because finance are always a problem. Exactly. And you always have, sometimes, especially when you're away, you have to trust certain individuals to buy building materials for you. So you have experiences whereby you've been scammed, because you want a project to go ahead.
Exactly.
But you're not on the ground. So there are certain individuals that you end up, putting trust in. Okay. And in that process, money can get abused.
Exactly. When you hear the word rural, what comes to mind?
Zimbabwe.
Wow.
It defines who we are. It defines our tradition. You have to know where you're coming from to know where you're going from. I've traveled many countries, yes, especially European countries. Yeah. You find they pride their history. If you go to the United Kingdom, Henry the what, Edward the what,
exactly.
They pride their visionary leaders, their warriors and stuff. But there's a tendency of us Africans to demonize. We associate our culture with demonic, not despiting the fact that there are certain quarters where people abuse tradition for wrong reasons. But I think there's everything. If you go back to the ancient foundation, if you take historical origin of human origin, whether you take geology, anthropology, psychology, you come to the same conclusion that all human beings originated in Africa. I always tell people that any Christian that respects, that any Christian should have a fundamental respect for Africa, because Africa has done so much, even for Christianity. Genesis 2 verse 18, the first country mentioned in the Bible is Ethiopia. Or that depending with the version of the Bible that you're using. If it's the Old Testament, it's called Cush, and Cush is the ancient name for Ethiopia.
I'm learning.
Literature came from Africa. So we are the birth of civilization. So I think it is important that us, especially as our young Africans, we get to learn more about what is Africa, what is it that you can learn. And if you go out there, you see everything that they're doing is a replica of what Africa it is. Amazing. So it's important that we teach the younger generation.
You're saying that Africa is the birth of civilization. That's deep.
It is. But one of the countries which was never colonized.
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. So there's so much great history for Africa that we as especially young Africans, we need to tap into.
What I loved about your situation, your mentality, is that when I speak about diasporians or even Africans, you are not even taking a side. You're just saying, hey, others might want to come back, others might not. So what's your advice to someone who is watching this video?
I think a vision and happiness is not a destination, it's a state of mind. Regardless of where you go, there will come a time when you want to go back home. So when you want to go back home, what kind of home are you going? You need to be in a position to create a good home. So I think we have a collective responsibility to develop Africa as a collective. So I always advise to people that regardless of where you go, you get to a time when you get tired. But when you get tired, you need a fallback. So it's important to always remain hungry, never get relaxed. Always remain hungry with your vision. Always know that one day you get tired, but when you get tired, you need a good fallback. So always have that mind that to say, you know what, one day I want to go back home, but where am I going? So raw is the future, and that's where the fresh air is. There's alternative energy. You can put solar. We've got solar here. We've drilled bore and everything. So raw is the future. We want to create a platform for people to come in to enjoy themselves.
I see.
Not only enjoy themselves, but also be an educational background for our culture.
How long have you been in the diaspora?
I've been in the diaspora for nearly 19 years, 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. I moved there, education, and I worked there. And then I decided, you know, when you go to diaspora, I mean, people go to diaspora for different reasons. But there was a point when I realized, you know what, I'm here, but I'm not happy. The happiness is not a destination, it's a state of mind. So regardless wherever you go, there's that missing link that you feel like, you know what, home is best. But you need to be in a position to create the happiness that you want. So I thought, you know what, going back home and building something that I have passion for, it can make me enjoy home more. So that was the motivator.
Amazing. Honestly, I wanted to ask, about diaspora. Do you think that a lot of people right now in the diaspora are not happy? They have that same mentality that you had, that I want to go back home.
People have no choice. People migrate for different reasons. Some are economic, some for their own personal reasons. But I believe that as an African, there's that thing that was always missing from you. We come from people. So it is so difficult to believe in an individualist society like Europe, where everything is about I. We believe in sharing. If it's a loaf of bread, we share.
Exactly, that's how it's supposed to be. But
when you're in Europe, you've got the whole loaf of bread by yourself and you won't enjoy it. So I've got this view, and I think everybody shares. Most of the people in diaspora, they share the same common view that, regardless of where you go, you're always going to be missing home.
Okay. So I came here and I saw even the local people were here roaming around, seeing everything that was happening. Even the rural leaders were here. What is the reason behind you accommodating everyone?
It takes the village to raise a child. I think that's where the motivation derives from. You need the backbone of the community. We have to start local. So us being appreciated, the idea being embraced, and supported by local folks, I think is very important. That's why we try by all means in anything that we do. There's that blessing. I always, extend and hand off. Like I've always said, leadership, it's about seeking and leading public opinion. So there's always that incorporation of local people, and so that they can be part and parcel in the blessings of the whole idea. I'm now here full time. Now, I only travel now and then, but I'm now, I would say since 2015. That's when I decided, you know what, I want to spend more time in Zimbabwe and in Africa. Why? Because you can't hotspot projects. You need to be in a position to be on the ground. You need to lead from the front. you need to feel the pain, you need to walk the road. So I took it's a very bold decision, which is a very hard decision.
Exactly.
You know, to say, you know what, I've lived all these years in the diaspora, but I've decided to say what, I want a new challenge. So yeah, that was the motivation, and for you to be able to, you know, to put the idea in practice, you need to be there.
Where did the idea of creating something like this come from?
Ideas come from people. I believe leadership is about seeking and leading public opinion. And my view has always been, I've always felt that there was a void within our entertainment segment. How can we fill the void where we can marry urban life and rural life?
Exactly.
Now we are saying going back to tradition is the first step towards progress. So I believe that there's a trend of us the younger generation, of going back and appreciating our roots. That's why you see there's the mushroom growing of rural tourism.
Exactly.
So I think there's a growing trend of people appreciating their culture, their tradition.
Yes.
So we are in the right tradition, we are in the right track, and I believe that we have a collective responsibility as daughters and sons of the soil. We thought Nyaguwe Resort opens that, you know, opportunity for us to narrate our own story as Africans, by Africans.